Good morning and welcome to a webinar brought to you, co-hosted by ThoughtLeadr and Imgur. The topic today will be Going Viral, Lessons on Virality from Imgur's Most Popular and Shared Images. Before we get too far into it, let me introduce myself and my co-host. My name is Mike Miller. I'm a director with ThoughtLeadr based in San Francisco. We are a native advertising and content marketing company that has a lot of technology built around social analytics, which is why we're relevant to today's topic. We see what people are interacting with and engaging with, and we use that to target advertising based off of those preferences and engagement histories. Our mantra is great content plus the right audience equals big engagement. And allow me to introduce Matt Strader. Matt, could you give a quick intro, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mike. So everybody, hi. Pleased to be with you today. My name is Matt Strader. I head up business and sales operations here at Imgur, and certainly seen my fair share of images go viral. So at our core, Imgur is an image sharing site. That's why we call ourselves a simple image sharer. Users come to our site to upload, view, and share images. And over time, we've become much more of a social platform where people come to discover, engage, and share all the best viral images the internet has to offer. A few stats here. We've grown to become a global top 100 Alexa site, which we're excited about. 3.6 billion page views a month. We have a large engaged audience, mostly young, largely affluent, engaged users. People are spending about 12 minutes on the site now on average and coming back 4 or 5 times a month. So certainly a platform that's great for audience engagement. So one common misconception is that people tell us all the time is, hey, you're that meme site, right? And yes, while that is true, we are certainly well known to host many of the internet's best memes people enjoy on Reddit, Facebook, and other social sites. But certainly, real quickly on memes, if you're not familiar, I mean, basically memes are concepts or ideas. They spread from person to person, and in this medium online, they certainly spread fast. And they're important because they reflect part of today's digital culture. So certainly as a brand or a marketer, if you can identify a meme that's relatable to your brand and use it in the positive, in the correct sense, then you can definitely generate a lot of positive attention around your brand. It's very fun to see memes get born, they get remade and remixed. And then continue to spread. So very valuable to your brand. But we also want people to know there's much more than that. We see all types of images gaining popularity, not just photos. We view images as being a broad category: digital art, comics, screenshots, things hacked together in Photoshop, as well as talented photographers. And another point of differentiation for us, we're a little bit more community and interest driven, similar to Reddit. And we're not tied to a limited social graph. So we allow people, potentially hundreds of thousands or millions of people access to engage with our popular viral content. You can go ahead to the next slide. So on Imgur, virality is really about these three things. It's about sharing content that has universal themes that connect with people in an emotional way. And somehow they encourage engagement, some kind of reaction. And today we're going to be looking at some of the most universal themes. And I'll pass it over to Mike to talk a little bit more about virality here.
Yeah, before we really get into the viral kind of categories and content that we're going to review, and there's going to be some amazing stuff coming up, it makes sense to kind of define what are we talking about in terms of virality and how do we define it. I have the benefit of having a brother who is a doctor of infectious disease, and there's medical comparisons. So in the disease world, if something's has a high degree of infectivity, then it spreads within a host quickly, and if it's in a high degree of infectiousness, then it spreads between hosts very rapidly. In the digital world, it's very similar. It's going to be the speed of the spread, both in a network and to other networks, and the ultimate popularity and reach. And then on the other end, you have the severity, which in the disease world generates symptoms, generates mortality. In the digital world, it generates comments, generates engagement in its social interactions, people sharing it, people commenting on it, voting on it, and the like. And when you combine the two, then you get something very powerful. That's when, in the disease world, you get smallpox, which spreads to the entire world and kills 300 million people before it's eradicated or more. In the digital world, you get something like Gangnam Style, which infects millions of people and makes them dance funny. Okay, so when we're talking about virality, that's what we're talking about. So let's take a quick look. Matt, could you walk us through kind of what you see as the vectors of transmission, so to speak, how these things spread?
Yeah, absolutely. So on our site, engagement takes a few different forms. People can engage internally and externally. So here we're going to look at internal. Shared images that have gone viral that get featured on our gallery site can then be voted on up and down, and that's really a way for content to be rated by our community. Sort of the equivalent of a like or a dislike, but that helps rate and sort of justify the value of the content. Images that do the best are the ones that really drive engagement through voting, but as well, they spark conversation through comments. So regularly, you'll see hundreds and hundreds of comments around our threads. Again, so for comparison, if we look at what you would average users would see on Facebook, from a post, if you get 54 likes and 9 comments, that you're doing pretty good. So if you sort of extrapolate that out to 1 million Facebook fans, you're looking at over 800 likes, 300 comments. When you look at the type of engagement that you can get from a platform like Imgur, from content that gets popular on our platform, you can get much higher engagement metrics by reaching only a fraction of those million people. And if you have reached those million people, you're certainly going to see a much higher level of engagement.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I'd say Imgur is sort of like having a Facebook page that's pre-stocked with 55 million subscribers. So
that's a good way to look at it. I like that. Okay, so when we're looking at this graphic, this is a little bit of how we see ourselves. We're sort of a hub for social sharing. We believe we're the best way to share images with the digital world. So people come to our site, they upload images in a flash, and they go to share it with their friends on social networks, and to share it with Imgur itself, now that we allow direct upload. So if images are popular enough that are shared, according to our algorithms, they make it into our gallery, and that's where we promote and feature images on our site that get seen by millions. We can go ahead and look at the next slide, which is going to talk a little bit about where this engagement happens when people do share externally. As you can see, a large amount of that sharing is happening to Facebook, which is not a surprise. Second highest is other, which is just an aggregate of all other social networks not listed here. But definitely still high engagement on these other platforms, particularly Tumblr, Reddit, Twitter, sort of as expected.
And by the way, I should note that this graph is actually based off the sharing data for the images we're about to review. So without further ado, let's take a look at some notable examples of viral content from Imgur. We call these notable strains and specimens. We've done our best to categorize them and spot trends that we can then use that knowledge to create our own viral content. If you feel yourself having an emotional reaction, that is perfectly normal. These are evocative images. So Matt, here we go.
All right, very good. So certainly have all the types of content have potential to go viral. But as Mike said, we're going to really look at the common themes that sort of galvanize interest on the internet and drive content to go viral. First, we're going to start by looking at humor, which is certainly a universal theme. It's one of the most popular ways that content does get spread. This first image, specifically it says how Babby is formed. Really how baby is formed, but this image is super fun. This couple took pictures all the way along their pregnancy in order to pull this off. After the baby was born, they created a series of images and added some cool explosion graphics to tell the story of their baby's birth. And a great example of humor assisting virality. In just 1 month, this actually received over 2 million views, which is pretty remarkable. You can look at the next slide here. Amazing. Some people are just flat out brilliant. Some of the things that we see every day just absolutely amaze us, and this is one of those that just make you say, wow. This Dutch artist had actually created a cloud in the middle of a room. On our platform, that received over 387,000 views and garnered over 4,600 points or votes on our platform. So certainly very interesting content. Another one that we thought was very interesting is this one. You can't sort of help but feel sort of heart and soul and the commitment that this person had to pull together over 3,800 photos into one sort of masterpiece. That's definitely something that you'll see with both of these. I mean, commitment to the joke, but that's sort of a common theme you'll see throughout a lot of things that people share. That's why you can connect with them. You can just, you know that they had to work awful hard to pull this off. And you don't want, when you work so hard to just make this one piece of art, it's really something that you don't want just feedback from potentially, your social graph, your, closest few hundred friends even. You want them to be seen by the world. And that's what's really unique about our platform too, is that you have the opportunity to share this with the world, for it to go viral online. And for example, this person was awarded with over 1.1 million views, over 5,500 points in that. This is one that we thought was really interesting. A lot of times people find the beauty and sort of magic in otherwise everyday things, and they want to share it to see if others share that feeling and just sort of have that wow reaction. And I don't know about you, but I definitely found this to be strangely engaging and beautiful. It did garner over 1.1 million views and nearly 5,000 points on the site, so others agreed. Emotional. And this is a category, but it's also sort of a common thread about popular content, as we mentioned. But if content connects with you on an emotional level, that's certainly powerful. This example here, the poster was actually a friend of the boy in the pictures, who's pictured here sending off his brother to Iraq, obviously upset about that, and sadly pictured again here about at the funeral. This actually garnered 650,000 views, over 6,700 points and 400 comments where people were talking about basically offering support, offering condolences to those lost, suffering war and consequences. And this is the kind of thing that's definitely real and it's authentic, and I think that people really connect with that. There's also uplifting stories as well. This is a fantastic one where the original poster had rescued a dog and then documented the dog's journey back to good health. Over 1 million views, 6,700 points, and 400 comments over the last year. That's also just an observation that in our gallery, certainly things do become popular fast and get spread fast, but there's also a very long tail. So the content continues to live on the platform, continues to get engagement for a long time to come.
I'd say people love a story with a happy ending, but conversely, the tragic stuff has wide appeal as well. People can relate and empathize.
Absolutely. So the next we're going to look at uncommon. The nature of the internet sort of being what it is, often you see things that you just don't expect to see every day or ever for that matter, and people are naturally curious. So here we have, the poster said, "My friend will never be bored with this gaming setup." And really remarkable, over 2 million views, 4,500 points, 700 comments. And this one is sort of interesting, Mike, because it allows for commenting in sort of different directions, right?
Yeah, so the gamers would obviously love it and be, oh, that's my dream setup. And then conversely, people that might not be into gaming would make a joke about living in his mother's basement or not having girlfriends or something like that. So there's many angles for commenting on that. And I'm sure that's part of the engagement.
And this one we got a big kick out of. Essentially, the town council wouldn't approve a permit to build a horse shelter. So the farmer was certainly ingenuitive, build a table and chairs instead that basically act as a shelter. And this is just fantastic. Again, one of those things that you just never expect to see, but certainly causes a reaction from the audience.
Yeah.
We also looked at thought-provoking images that make you go, in this case, we're looking at this is the type of image where, it's very, I wouldn't say that it's odd, but it's not very common to see this on social networking sites. It's more of a science piece. But specifically, this was posted on an individual to Imgur's site. The message even says that, Imgur rejoice, NASA finds water on Mercury. And the top comment on this was actually from the poster who said, "Wow, I made it to the front page. I'm glad to know there's more people than it seems at times who care about and understand science. I love Imgur," which is pretty fantastic. And his comment alone, which can be upvoted on our site, that comment alone had 500 votes. So certainly engaging. We do have a very intelligent and curious user base. So certainly they came out and asked for this one. Drama, surprise. One of the things that's really interesting about still images and how they play out is they do allow the user to sort of do what will happen next. So looking at this example, this is the surprise. The boy asks for Santa for his dad to come home, and in fact his dad is sitting behind the setup there just waiting to surprise him. So really exciting, really, really fun image for people.
Yeah, and unlike film, which will tell you the end of the story, this leaves it open to our imagination, and we're remarkably good as a species at completing the picture and completing the story in our heads. So.
Cute. Of course, cute animals are an internet mainstay. That is, of course, never going to change. In addition to the sort of standard cats and dogs, which we certainly get a lot of, you also see some unusual animals make their way into the mix. This one in particular that we found is the quokka. I've never seen one of these before, but I was blown away by the cuteness, the seeming smile from this one. 1.7 views just in the last week. So you understand why people find this animal so adorable. The next one is strange indeed, but this reptile, it's a little lizard and just really, really cute. This one's interesting because it sort of ties two of the categories together. This is actually a tribute because the pet had passed away. So you're sort of tugging on the heartstrings as well as identifying with the adorable reptile in this. Other users were relating to them, saying every pet deserves love, and another one saying they just lost their bearded dragon. So people were having long conversations about that. Next, we'll look at animated GIFs. That is just awesome. These are frames of images stitched together. They feel more like a short-form video, and they're certainly extremely popular online. This is something we're going to actually build later this year to facilitate content creation as a way to do these. But these are awesome because they can be real short and punchy. You get a little bit more than a still image. On the left, you can actually tell a story. And one thing that's very common is that we see a lot of is perfectly looping GIFs that begin and end. So it's more of mesmerizing or almost hypnotic when you keep watching them again and again. But people will definitely reward you on our platform. The more distinguishing users will recognize perfectly looping GIFs and certainly credit you for that.
There's also a subcategory of cinematographics, which is a static image where only part of it is moving, and those are also extremely popular as well.
And the next category we looked at, and this is actually going to be the last one today, is exchanges. So we have a couple examples of exchanges, and exchanges are sort of a thing that's become popular on Facebook and other places. You don't see it all the time on our site, but there are a couple good examples. One that we saw is a person had put cigarettes in a blender, and they said, hey, for every output that I get, I'm going to stop smoking for an hour. And all in all, that person received over 8,000 points. Definitely some motivation to stop smoking there, and a pretty good story. The next one, which we just thought was so fantastic. It's been a rough day. I'm going to stick Post-its to my face for every upload I get in the next 24 hours. And indeed, that person had over 7,000 Post-its stuck to him by the end, because it's absolutely great, totally ridiculous. I think this you just have to tread lightly with these sort of things, particularly on our platform, because people aren't as eager to simply just like. They're a little bit more discerning. So any sort of marketing exercise that would include any sort of exchange, you definitely just need to tread lightly, because if people sense sort of an ulterior motive, they have the ability to sort of change on you, and so you just need to be careful. But they can certainly be very rewarding as well.
And
so now we're going to transition to Mike.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
Clearly, we've seen a lot of these kind of blend categories together. This exchange is obviously quite funny, but it shows that there's an audience behind it, and again, that just naturally encourages interaction and engagement. And then the payoff is pretty awesome. I'm going to talk a bit about the data trends that we've spotted in these images and similar viral content hits. One of the key findings was that the first 48 hours are absolutely critical. And let me explain why. We actually call it kind of growth or bust. Every single example that we looked at today had rapid exponential growth within the first 48 hours. Every single one. Why is that? Well, content is born into kind of a hostile and crowded environment. There's millions and millions of images uploaded to Imgur every month. And to stand out, they're trying to find the best ones. So all content sites like Imgur have rating systems or popularity systems to identify the best content. And these rating systems have progressively higher thresholds that you need to meet in order to get promoted or advance in their system. And so a lot of times it will require the doubling of votes, and thus you'll need to have exponential growth early on and reach critical mass early on within the first 48 hours in order to be to kind of catch that wind. It is a positive feedback loop. If you do get early growth and you get identified and promoted by an internal mechanism like that, then that will lead to more growth, okay? And if you do not, then you will die off and you'll be relegated to more linear growth. So this is a very, very key finding. You know, the first 48 hours, absolutely critical as to whether, and it will dictate whether something becomes viral and is spread far and wide. The other thing that's worth noting is that the importance of the digital influencers. There's certain communities and user bases that are that naturally share more and can drive influence on other networks. This is a bit older example, but it's a graph of Chuck Testa. You can see Reddit is leading the charge. They spiked pretty early, and then it migrated to other networks. So Reddit, the Reddit crowd and the Imgur crowd, I would say, punches above its weight in the sense that they naturally engage with and share at a much higher rate than some other networks. So they can be very good at seeding and promoting early on. And they also want to be on the forefront of what's new and what's cool. So that's all well and good, but you might say, well, how can we leverage this? How can we put this to good use and maybe make some profit from it? And the answer is via native advertising and content marketing. Specifically the creation and promotion of branded and sponsored content. And this is a relatively new phenomenon. The process is pretty straightforward. You got to follow the rules. We just gave you some guidelines as to what content works and why. If you can hit one or more of those categories, you're off to a great start. Does that guarantee that it'll go viral? Absolutely not. Okay. Number two, we think is critical as well. You need to, we call it seed and feed. You need to put it in front of the right people and promote it. Again, since the first 48 hours is critical, you need to drive growth within that first 48 hours, and by sponsoring it and promoting it to the target audience, that's a great way of doing it. And if you do 1 and 2, then the likelihood of getting a big engagement and additional sharing beyond that initial period is much, much higher. You can get not only big engagement with your target, but then migrate from paid media to earned media. And this is increasingly more popular. Here's an example on Imgur of a Virgin Mobile campaign. It's embedded where normal content resides, so it is native. It fits the bill in that it's funny, it's remarkable, it's different. Richard Branson rappelling down a building drinking champagne. People loved this. People shared this. And it worked out for a big win for Virgin Mobile. Likewise, here's an example for the Red Cross. Again, you can see that this particular bit of creative is remarkable, and people liked it and shared it. It's definitely different, and it represented the brand Titan well. Another thing to note is that if you don't do it, someone will do it for you. This is a Foot Locker GIF created from a video. How would I know that? Well, I'd seen it before, but there's no Foot Locker branding on it, so instead of Foot Locker taking credit for it, some user has taken the liberty of grabbing a chunk of their content and uploading it themselves. So now it's just great content that's divorced from their brand, which is a travesty. This type of approach of native content marketing is becoming very popular because it is very effective at driving high levels of engagement, and so we're going to see a lot more of it in the coming months and years because it's going to work. It's a nice blend of brand and content, and people enjoy it, and therefore they like sharing it, and it's far more effective than a typical ad, which people tend to ignore. So that's our presentation for today. We appreciate you joining us. We do have a few minutes for Q&A, so if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in. I see a couple already, and we do appreciate you joining us. Again, if you need help with content marketing and native advertising, please just give us a call. We're more than happy to provide guidance and help out. Again, this is what we do all day. So first question for Matt is, Imgur seems to have grown very quickly over the last few years. To what do you attribute your rapid growth?
So I think that there's probably a couple things. One of the key things that Imgur did from the very beginning was, I mean, obviously the core thing needed to be there, which is just having a good product that people like to use. And we still definitely credit that for a large part of the growth. But having the way that the site launched, Alan basically shared with Reddit's community that he had created an image sharing tool for the community, and that was powerful. That resonated with people. People won't embrace it. People have done similar things like that, but if the product isn't good inherently, people won't use it. People won't enjoy it. People won't share it. In this case, you had sort of the perfect storm where you had a really fantastic product that was faster and better than others, that provided sort of guidelines for use that the community was looking for, and then you had the benefit of a community that was using it, that was sharing with it, and so we've been very fortunate to do that. Obviously, we've made some additional changes over time that have continued to bolster that growth, but it's all organic growth, and we're certainly very proud of that. I hope that answers that question.
Thank you for that answer. Another question here. Why not just run a traditional ad unit on Imgur, like a display ad or banner? And I think I'll field this one if I may.
Of course.
One of the other data trends that we've observed is that when you put traditional units like, let's say, a banner ad on sites that are content rich and geared towards engagement and content sharing, is that they have terrible CTRs, click-through rates. Again, people are going to share and enjoy content on those sites, and they're not there to view your ad, so it just gets ignored and neglected, which isn't to say you can't run stuff there. It's just an uphill battle, right? And the native content marketing approach, you create great content that fits in with the rest of it on the site, and you appeal to why people are there, and the odds of engaging with that group are just, you can get results that are 10x, 20x what a normal click-through rate is, and you get people sharing it beyond the network and pointing their friends to it. So if they share it on Facebook, we estimate that at least 4 other people will see that post typically. So it's geared towards virality, and that you're just not going to get that with a standard banner ad or display unit, even on sites like Imgur.
Yeah, and just to build off that real quickly, and then we can take other questions. It is true that people are engaged with the content, and when people come to our site, people spend a long time. People who browse on our site spend a long time. They look at a lot of images. So over time, the effectiveness of those banner ads is just simply reduced. So the click-through rates are fairly low. They're average for our sector in social media, but they are low. So people are engaging with content, and when you can show them that you're savvy enough to put a message in front of them, sort of on the level that they're expecting to. I mean, that's the whole native advertising movement, right? Is we want to sort of deliver to the audience what they're expecting. So that's what we're trying to do with the native advertising, is really sort of engage them the way that they prefer to be engaged, and they're going to reward you for that in the end.
Okay. A bit more personal question, Matt. Someone was wondering if you had a particular image that was your favorite. I know it's hard to choose from when there's millions, but do you have one that you enjoy the most?
Oh gosh, I don't. I'm stuck actually off the top of my head. I mean, I'm not even as bad as the engineers here who really get into the photos. So to answer your question, I can't think of one off the top of my head, which I'm a little bit embarrassed about. But the truth of the matter is that I will spend great amounts of time on the site, but when I really need to get work done, I don't get on the site. And I feel like other people do the same. If you really need to be productive, it's a bad place to be because it draws you in and it keeps you there for a long time, which from our point of view, that is what we want to do. But when I'm trying to get things done, it's hard to focus when you're spending time looking at all the great images.
Well, we're coming up, right around our 30-minute mark, so we're gonna cut this short. Again, thank you very much for joining us. We hope that you've learned a thing or two. Again, if you want more information about the creation of content and native advertising, please do keep us in mind. Like I said, it is a very effective approach for brand advertisers top of funnel. We really appreciate you joining us. Thanks again.
Thank you very much for joining.